My name is Jim Wimer, and my story started out while working for the Oklahoma City Fire Department. I was aged 21 years old at that time, and we got called out to the station at WKY to fight a grass fire. Now that's what it was Channel 4 in its beginning. We came out, we fought the fire. I had no idea that I would be interested in having a job in TV. But it was just barely getting off the ground, so I didn't pay too close attention to that. But I remember that at that time, the business was at its infancy. And pretty soon after they came into the biz, why I came out and put out an application, and I met a man called Billy Nix. He was the stage manager. Well, really, Billy was just a kid, because at that time I was only 21 years old, and Billy couldn't have been 2 or 3 years older than I was at the time. So anyway, Billy had me fill out an application. Later on, he hired me. So we were trained. We had to go through training back then, and they had mic booms, and we had to practice on that till we just were numb from climbing up and down. And we also had the cameras, and we had pedestal cameras. You had to learn to truck and dolly, tighten the pan head. There were a lot of things to learn, but it was wonderful. Yeah, it was a wonderful business to be in, and the equipment was great. It was new. And let's see, we had a sander at that time, and it was a crane, and it took a man to take you up and down and sideways, and he would listen to the director, and the director would say, take him up 40 degrees, take him up 80 degrees. And we had counterbalance weights that were lead, and they fit in the back end of the crane. And sander was apparently the person or the people who designed and made it, because a lot of this equipment came from Hollywood. And so anyway, that was the crux of the whole thing, was to learn to run that. And that was fun because you had a seat and you could sit in it, and it made you feel real good and comfy, and you could look down on the show and on people. We'd laugh about it. But anyway, now for sometimes we have to have fun. So we would sit out there and come up with ideas and try to match each other, and we had a lot of downtime. So one time we got together and we'd get together and take balloons. We always had different things, balloons or toys of some kind that they would bring out for advertising. And we would play with these balloons. And we would have several people that we'd have sides, and we'd toss these balloons in the air and hit them, and it got kind of rough, believe it or not. Once in a while we'd get kind of a scratched face or something, but the team that would lost or let the balloon hit the ground, why, naturally they lost. So we would laugh over that, but it gave us things to do in downtime. So let's see, some of the team members were Danny Williams, R.C. Barrier, Billy Nix, myself, and others. I can't tell you all the others because it's been a long time ago. Now we did shows like 3D Danny, a couple of westerns, a music show with Ronnie Kay called The Scene. Now these were a lot of fun, but this was live TV in those days, and it was very stressful. And that's one of the things about television, that it is stressful. Because you never knew for sure that things were going to be going right. as you had planned them. So all the shows were live in those days without any kind of a backup. And so anyway, that's part of the problem we had. That was trying to make sure it was done right. Channel 4 went color. We were the first station in the United States to do so, and we were very proud of it. We did cooking shows at that time, modeling shows for the latest fashions for the 1950s, along with creative crafts for the artist at heart. And there are a lot of people who love those shows. These color cameras were called the TK40s. They were big and they were clumsy. They had 3 big cables they had to pull around with them. And after a while you got pretty tired. And let's see, after several years in TV, being a single man now at that time, I wasn't married, I bought a Geiger counter. And I wanted to go prospecting for uranium. Now I was going to get rich quickly because I'd read a lot of books on it, a lot of stories. And that was to get rich and buy my own TV station. But anyway, the only thing I got out of that was that I caught malaria fever and was very, very sick and carried it over for several years. And I believe now I have problems with it. So anyway, after that bout, I went to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and put in my application at WKY-TV, Channel 6. I was immediately hired for my experience, and I finally became a director while I was there. I met my wife through my brother-in-law, and he worked there at the station also. And he was one of the singers. He was talent for Arthur Godfrey show, had a wonderful voice. And we, Betty and I have now, my wife, been married 55 years. We had 2 sons, and they were a gift to us, and we've had great fun with my oldest son. So anyway, I stayed there at Channel 6 and became a director there, and it was fun. I had met a lot of fine people there. So Betty and I decided to move back to Oklahoma City, and I came back in and got back into TV again. I put in my application for the educational channels, which was Channel 13 and Channel 25. And Dr. Bill Lullard hired me. And so I worked with him for several years. I also was a director there in the educational TV system. And great business, I loved it. But it was something kind of missing. And that was having sets and TV shows that I was used to doing. Shows that where you could do Foreman Scotty and set up the warehouse and the bunks and all that, and laugh at what the things that the boys would do on stage. So after, you know, a few years at that, why, I came back and went to work for WKY-TV. And some of the shows I worked included Foreman Scotty, Deputy Chris, Tom Paxton, which later became the Danny Williams Show. We had a lot of fun in those days. I played cards sometimes on my lunch hour with Louis Parks, Pete Richmond, John Spence, and some of the engineers. During lunchtime also, we had Ernie Schultz, and he got a group together and played touch football outside in the yard, and that kept everybody in pretty good shape. We stayed in good shape, had to, because we did a lot of hard work in the biz. So we had a man out there, John Spence, who invented a game using rolls of tape. We would pitch the tape at the rolls. It was hooked onto an S-hook, which we used to hang some of the lights on the grid. And later on, the loser would have to go up and buy coffee, and we'd get several teams and play. And I bought a lot of coffee because I didn't win very often. So I got into lighting and lighted such shows as Buck Owens. I also lighted the Stars and Stripes show, which was carried nationwide. And I lighted many other shows for specific clients. And we did we wanted to, also I remember doing the opening dedication for the Cowboy Hall of Fame. And we had lots of cowboys and lots of Indians to work with. That was quite an experience, and it was different, a lot of fun. Like I say, it was stressful, but it was a beautiful dedication that we had. So really, I had the honor of working with people like Billy Nix, Bob Rodkey, John Spence, Ray Murdoch, Pete Richmond, Gene Shouts, George Dolney, Jay Spivey, Mark Northcutt, and many, many others. And they were good at their profession. It was a stressful business, and we all survived and got through it, believe it or not. Well, there at the last, I finally got into engineering. That's where they wanted to put me, there at the last, and it was different. I enjoyed it. So I put in, I would say, at least 36, 37 years into the TV industry at that time. So I want to congratulate John Spence on the work he has done to promote the history of WKY-TV and those of us who pioneered the business, including the engineer staff. I have been retired now for 21 years. Time flies. My name is Jim Wimer.